I'd like to introduce, she already introduced herself, Tawnya Reddy. We've had a chance to email and to chat a bit. She has a real exciting background, and she's going to tell us how she got to where she is today and some things that she's been doing and some things that she's looking forward to doing. So Tawnya?
All right, thank you. And first off, I'd like to say thank you all for presenting me with the scholarship. It's greatly appreciated, and it is really helping me to achieve my goals. But Jane gave me a list of some things she wanted me to talk about, but I think I'm just going to talk about sort of where I came from and how I got to where I am now in just a story. And if you guys have any questions, anything you want me to expand on, anything, just let me know. I came from a little small town called Sandy, which is out by Mount Hood, for those of you who are not sure where that is. And it's actually really amazing to me that I'm sitting here right now, because all my life growing up I was told you'd make a great teacher, and I said no. I don't want to be a teacher. And I said that all through even my undergrad years. I don't want to be a teacher. So it's really amazing that I'm even here now. But originally I was very interested in psychology, and I did my undergrad at Oregon State University in psychology. Wanted to be a psychologist. I wasn't sure what area, but some different areas like social psych and normal psych really interested me. So I went there intending to do that. Was also in the honors college, very involved in both psychology and honors. I was also a writing tutor in the writing center at OSU for over 3 years. So I went to school full time. I worked about 20 hours a week the majority of the time I was there. Was involved in psych-hi, all sorts of different extracurricular activities. And then came, my last year and getting ready to apply to graduate schools, and that ended up being kind of a flop. I wasn't accepted. So my master plan was ruined. What do I do now? All my life, my parents, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college. Okay, I did college, now what? So I graduated and basically needed a job. I wanted something psychology related, but I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. Just so happens in my search for jobs, came across a listing for a place called the Perry Center. Never heard of this place before, never heard of anything about, in this field, but with kids, I've done coaching, things like that. I'll apply and see what I get. So I, was interviewed and hired and had no idea what I was getting into at the time. But a little over 3 years later, I'm still there. So I began working as an on-call staff, so I would work, at whatever shifts were open. And to give you a little background for those of you who don't know, the Perry Center is a residential treatment facility for kids. There's kids anywhere from age about 5 to 17. They're on different living units. And they do live there. They're there 24/7 with staff and psychiatrists and you name it, supervising them, because these kids are either too dangerous to themselves or others to be out in the community. And I work with the little kids. I work with the little guys anywhere, like I said, between 5 and about 12. And so we get kids that come in there who are aggressive on a daily basis and need to be manual restrained and things like that. And so can be a very tough job, but it's also a very rewarding job. For example, a girl just discharged about a month ago who'd been there over 2 years. And I was one of the people that, she had grown very attached to, and towards the end when we were trying to get her ready to go, I was the one primarily taking her out and doing things with her because she trusted me and she felt safe with me. So it is very rewarding to see things like that happen. And the Perry Center, although, at the time it was just a job, which I needed desperately, it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because for someone coming out of a psych background or any sort of social work background, you really have access to every part of that. You have social work and psychology and psychiatry and nursing and education. On the campus, we have a school. It is one of the Portland DART schools, which stands for Day and Residential Treatment Schools, and that's through Portland Public. And sort of by accident, I began working in a classroom down there the first year I worked there. And about a month or so into the regular school year, there's also summer school. I was asked to be the permanent staff in the lower elementary classroom. And the reason was, at the time, it was just arbitrarily assigned every day a different staff in every classroom. And the teacher thought that was a little silly. As you can imagine, you know, being as the kids need that consistency, and not just that, but the teachers like that consistency so they can actually work with the staff. So I came to work with a guy named Mike, who is a Portland State grad as well. And I was blown away right away by the classroom and what happened there, because I mean, I'm talking about the most serious kids in the state of Oregon, the most difficult kids to work with, aggressive on a daily basis. But in that classroom, they were succeeding. And they were, you walk in, it's just like a normal elementary classroom in a school anywhere. And it just amazed me. And I was just like, how does he do this? How can this happen? So, you know, after working with Mike for a year or so, I started thinking, you know, I kind of like this. This is kind of fun. I like to see these kids succeed, and often this is the only time they have succeeded. And they love to go to school. They love to be down there. And he just really developed a welcoming classroom. He does a lot of positive praise, a lot of, you know, and he really strives to build that relationship with the kids. And so after thinking a little bit about it and talking to him, because he graduated from here as well, I thought, well, maybe I'll look into it. Maybe that could be something fun I could do. And so here I am, 3 years later, a graduate student at Portland State, and you know, the choice to become a teacher and the choice to choose Portland State all came from Mike, the guy, and I still work with him. So here I am. I am going part-time right now, and the reason being is I still work full-time at Perry Center. So I work 40 hours a week, and then 2 days a week this term. I leave a little bit early and come down here to Portland State and take classes. So, and thank goodness no practicum this term, so I have a few days off a week. But I'll be done this next spring, able to get my teaching license, and I'm hoping to work in the DART program. Actually, the vice principal of DART was asking me at the beginning of the year if I had my license yet, because she needed spots to, you know, she had spots to fill in and wanted to hire me. So I'm really hoping to work next year in that program. Mike will be retiring this year, so I'm kind of eyeing his spot. And so that's what I have planned for the near future. I actually have been contemplating recently, because my original aspirations were to go on and get a PhD, be a psychologist. I'm thinking, you know, this is just sort of starting to formulate, maybe a master's in teaching is not where I'll end, but sort of where I'll begin. You know, I'll start with that and maybe keep going on and use my teaching to help, you know, with other things. So that's sort of where I came from and where I'm going, and that's me. So you guys have any questions or anything?
No. I think we're in awe.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, I appreciate it.
How fortunate the kids are.
I try.
How did you choose special education rather than that part of the program?
I don't know. I just, you know, Mike is a special education teacher, and to work with, you know, these kids, most of them are on IEP, so you do need to have the special education licensure. And I think I just found my special niche. You know, I had, before I'd started working at Perry Center, I had no idea that special ed involved all this different stuff. You know, I'd just seen, growing up, you know, honestly, the special education kids were pushed into one classroom. We never saw them. So that was my concept of what special education was. And I had no idea that it involved all these other things. So I just really want to keep doing what I'm doing right now, but on the teaching side of it. That's what's inspired me. That's where I see the kids succeed the most. And that's the most gratifying for me. So that's...
What's the class load out there?
Oh, about 5 students, usually. There used to be the teacher, a paraeducator, and a staff. They have since cut many of the paraeducators. There's 3 now for the school of 5 classrooms, and I basically function as the para now. So, which is good for me. I enjoy that part of it. So.
Good for you.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the age. What ages of the class you're in? Are they in the small span?
Yeah, they're the little guys, usually up to about 3rd grade. Right now it's comprised mostly of 4th graders. It sort of depends. It's lower elementary, upper elementary, and then middle and high school are combined. There's 3 of those middle high school classrooms. So now we've got mostly 4th graders in the class with a couple 2nd graders, I think they are. But usually it's low to 3rd, unless there's a student who's significantly below grade level, then they'll be placed in that classroom.
So the students transition to a different level, but the staff is static within each classroom?
That's the goal. It doesn't always happen that way. Unfortunately, within the Perry Center, each unit, obviously has the supervisors and then there's a unit manager. But the unit manager only supervises 1 unit, and all of us work in the school, so other units see things, if they see something differently, they do it differently than we do. But kind of the cool thing is, my classroom, the one I work in, is the only one that's comprised of only kids from my unit, because they're all the youngest ones. So that's helpful for me, whereas some of the other classrooms, the units are mixed, and you don't know the students as well. So, anyway. That's it.
How about your cohort here at Portland State? And how it has implemented,
I'm sorry?
how it has affected your work at Perry Center?
Well, it's the only way it's affected it is just adding a lot more things for me to do, because I still work full-time, but it's been very helpful to work at Perry Center because I can take, what I've seen and bring it to the cohort and to the classes I'm teaching and bring up these special differences, because most people haven't experienced a classroom like this. It's very different from anything most imagine, with gen ed or special ed. And so there's that. I'm also able to bring things that I learn at PSU back to the classroom. It's actually funny because last year, after learning about the CBM and DIBELS and all that, Mike came to me actually and said, do you know anything about the CBM stuff that we're supposed to be doing now? And I was like, oh yes, I do, by the way. So it's been pretty cool because the stuff that they're starting to implement now that's trickling down to the DART program, I've already been learning about, so that's helpful for him. So.
I have a question in relation to the environment there. Do you have people come in there that finally have a hard time dealing with that? You sound like you've adjusted over a long period of time, which is wonderful, but I can't believe that's everyone's situation.
Very, very much so. It's definitely not a job for everybody. I mean, and even part of my motivation to get into this program and to move on is to get out of that, because you go onto the units and there are times it's very difficult, if the kids are acting out and people get black eyes, people have broken bones, people have all sorts of things happen to them, and luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had anything too terrible happen to me, but I definitely don't want to do that for the rest of my life.
It's stressful, isn't it?
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
It's very stressful, so.
Are they ever, through education, making a big step forward, or are you always dealing with the emotional thing and that just keeps them going?
Definitely. I mean, that's part of why I was drawn to education, is that's really, for some of these kids, literally the only time in their life they've succeeded, because it's not about, they accomplish whatever at their grade level and they're praised. It's like, no matter what they do, they're praised, which was something very valuable I learned from working with Mike. 2 + 2 is 4. Oh, great job, you're so smart. No matter what, because they're all at different levels, they're all accomplishing their own thing. And if you praise them for whatever it is they're doing, they have no idea that they're 2 grade levels behind. They just know that you think they're smart and that you're happy with what they're doing. Exactly. So definitely, I mean, there was a girl last year that I worked with in the Readwell program, and we've taught kids to read there through the course of a year or so, because sometimes they're there several years. And so that's pretty amazing to see a kid that comes in that can't read, and a year later they can read. It's very rewarding to see.
How do they come to the Perry Center?
Lots of different ways. With the changes in economy, we're moving away from DHS kids, more towards private funded kids, and that's because kids that are funded by the state, we often don't get paid very much for them because the state isn't able to pay. So that's sort of a shift that we've seen, but a lot of kids are in DHS custody. And as you can imagine, most of these kids have come from some sort of abusive background. There's a reason they're in DHS custody, and there's a reason they act the way they do. Some kids, you know, just have some biological things going on that affects them, and their parents don't really know what to do, and so they come to us. But all sorts of different ways. Usually there's some sort of, you know, instigation to it. The kid acts out in a way in the home, and a lot of them come from the hospital because they were hospitalized for whatever incident that was, and they come to us to stabilize and do some medication management and things like that. So, but it just sort of depends on, you know, what level they're at, how long they stay there. So we're trying to move more towards a month or 6 weeks or so, as opposed to the 2-year-long stays. But the DHS kids, unfortunately, then you have to deal with, well, where do they go once they're ready to go? And can we set up appropriate, you know, foster placements and school placements so that they will be successful, not just bounce in and out?
So is there an evaluation board, Tawnya, within the Perry Center that determines if they are ready to exit?
It's therapist and psychiatrist driven mostly. You know, there's obviously goals that we set up for them to accomplish and different things, and a lot of times if they're doing well on the milieu with us and they've accomplished their goals and therapy is going well, if they have a family, if the family's ready to take them and has support set up, then that usually determines it. Sometimes funding determines it. We've also had kids that just ran out of funding, and it's like, all right, bye, because we can't keep them if they don't have the funding.
Is anyone
so.
working with those parents?
Yes, well, we do on the units, but the therapists do, psychiatrists do. And we try our best, you know, to help them figure out how to maintain the kid in their home and work with the kid as well.
I think we made the right choice to give her a scholarship.
Yeah.
I think we did.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, Tawnya, thank you for not only who you are and what you're doing, but for taking your time to come today.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.